There are thousands of stories like that of ordinary South Africans getting involved to make a difference. And you heard the one person mention when we had our strike at the hospitals. The strike happened 2 days after we launched. And that night I got a call from the Minister of Health. And excuse my French, but I nearly shat myself. I thought, oh God, now what have I done? And she came on the line, and what was so amazing about it, just 2 days in, asked me if Leaders A could help call for volunteers for the hospitals. And I thought about it for a moment, and I thought, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? We have powerful mediums. We could go on air and call for volunteers, and what concerned me was the safety of calling on South African volunteers. And I needed her to give me a guarantee that the South African public who came forward would be safe. And she said, absolutely, absolutely. And I asked her to repeat herself, and I taped her, as we do in the press. And I was most concerned about it. But they mobilized the security that we had at the World Cup, and every entrance into the hospitals had army there, and everything was rolling. And we went on air the following morning at 5 o'clock, and we started to call for volunteers to go and work in the hospitals, and pass no judgment on why the strikes were occurring. The stories coming from the nurses who couldn't get out of their homes to go to the hospitals were mind-blowing. So we just do the right thing. And I think by 7 o'clock we had 6,000 volunteers. And we then had to start coordinating where they went into what hospitals. But I think for those of you who might listen to our radio stations, the one call actually came from a home where there were 80 little babies in neonatal and nobody to look after them. And Dr. Friedland from Netcare called us to say, could we mobilize to get these babies into Garden City Clinic? And yeah, we did. We got these children into the clinic. It took 8 hours for the crying to stop. But if that's all Leaders A did, was save those children's lives, I think it was well worth it. But for me, I went to work at the psych ward at Barrow, you must know. Pretty scary place. My only instruction from the woman there was to make sure they took their medication, which I did. So I was running around making sure they all took their medication. But what was so funny about it was, as I was doing my rounds and cleaning and feeding and making sure they took their medication, they would keep running up to me and then take my face in their hands to check that I was still white. But it was really funny. Anyway, we also launched the Bill of Responsibility about a month ago. You would have seen it again in the press. And the Bill of Responsibility is a partnership with the Basic Department of Education and the South African Interfaith Council, very interesting group, government, media, and religion. But they wrote a book some time back on basically your rights. You have these rights enshrined in your constitution, but what do you do with those rights? And what is the behavior that you need with these rights? And the Bill of Rights contained in the Constitution enshrines each right of every citizen and seeks to protect those who are vulnerable, weak, or marginalized. It basically upholds the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. It is our cornerstone of our democracy, and as citizens, we have to have the responsibility to build a great nation on its sturdy foundation. And when you talk to the kids in schools, they don't understand what people had to do to fight for their rights in this country. It's some time back, and they don't respect our Constitution, which is amazing. But the Bill of Responsibility is the building blocks to make sure that we do the right thing all the time. It essentially means that with every right you have in the Constitution, you have a set of responsibilities. So one of the rights in the Constitution is I have a right to education, but what is your responsibility to that? Simple things: go to school, don't take a gun to school, respect your teachers, stop bullying, etc., etc. So we are calling that we take this message to the families. The Bill of Responsibility is on the website. There's a teacher's training guide. The Department of Education has now made it a compulsory subject in life orientation, which we are delighted about. So we're starting to teach within the schools your rights in the Constitution and your responsibility that comes with it. And we believe that this is the start of the moral regeneration of this country and is the guideline for future generations that needs to be driven by morals and values. So I'd like to play the Bill of Responsibility video, please. Okay, if you could just click to the next slide. I'm going to wrap up now because I could go on, but there's been various other projects, as you probably hear. We've also launched things like the Outsurance Pointsments project, which is very, very familiar in Johannesburg. We've rolled out in Pretoria and Cape Town. For those of us with potholes, we launched the Dial Direct Pothole Brigade. Need I say any more? They've filled 22,000 potholes. The corruption on the roads is amazing, but we're getting that done. We launched the Lead with Lights campaign, promoting safe driving, and there's more to come in this space, where we are going to launch a set of cards which are related to soccer, and everybody understands what a red card and a yellow card means. And we'll be rolling this out through 4 courts and get them into people's cars, because I don't know if you're like me, you see a lot of bad driving, you see a lot of things going wrong on the roads, and I've got a real aversion to the mothers with kids jumping around on the front seats, and I don't know if you've ever tried to tackle one of these women, but they're really vicious, and I'm quite scared of them. So I'll be holding up a red card, but what we'll do is drive the public every month to run an initiative. So for 1 month, we'll be calling on you to show every driver on their cell phone the red card. And I think the more cards that are flashing out the window, you don't have to be verbal, you don't have to do the sign language. I think that the message will get through. So some of the things have a fun initiative, but a really serious base to get things right again. We've launched Save the Rhino. It is making steady progress. As you know, the hospital volunteers. We also launched a campaign saying, have you bribed a traffic cop? That was mind-blowing. We've also gone into, and we've got it right in Cape Town, and we're still battling with Johannesburg. One of the things we're doing is we're taking the roll from the courts, and we will be printing on the front page of the Star, the Pretoria News, every drunken driver caught over the weekend by name. So we're naming and shaming drunken driving. It's working very well in Cape Town. So I could go on, but what is clear is that there's an overwhelming majority of South Africans that are essentially good people who want the best thing for our country. It has also become clear that the goodwill and humanity that was prevalent during the World Cup was not just an outpouring of flash sentiment. It has become evident and clear that we are extraordinary people living in an extraordinary time. We hear it in the many comments, as I said, on our radio station. You will see it on the social media platform, on the Facebook site, and people are making a difference. They are recognizing the good in others, and perhaps the greatest achievement is that people are starting to talk about this. Many people phone me on a daily basis or email me saying, what can I do to lead South Africa? And my message to you is very simple. It starts with you, each and every one of you, and the impact you can have on those around you. You do not need my permission. You don't even need to call me. You simply need to go, I've got this idea, and you need to rally up the support, and you need to go and do it. And that's what Lead SA stands for. So if you can change your behavior, you will positively change the world you live in. So please stand up for what's right, stand up for the law, stand up for decency and compassion and respect, stand up for the future you want for your family and your country, stand up for your community, and simply stand up and lead South Africa. As we said in the video, because if you don't, who will? And I'd like to close with a quote from our former president, Nelson Mandela, who said, and I think this is apt for education, education is the most powerful weapon which you have to change the world. I thank you.